You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. How are you doing? Well, I am excited to talk about this amazing, no, I'm just kidding, piece of work that Devin Tracy put together to advocate for Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito's innocence. And I have to say, I mean, in all honesty, it's a troll. It's a joke. You can't be serious. It's basically like a moving collage of a bunch of untrue things, not dealing with any of the real evidence against Raph or Amanda. And it makes a lot of incredible claims, tries to use common sense with facts that are totally, with facts that aren't facts, with things that are totally untrue, so that, of course, you'll come to a conclusion. When you're given facts that are untrue, that is incorrect. But let's go through it. I'm just going to go through the first bit of it, because it's just really not even, it would take me forever to go through the whole thing and fact check it, correct it. I don't know if you're hugely interested in me doing that, maybe, but it would certainly take a long time to do. So let's get into it. Of course, you know, Devin Tracy is great at all this editing and making it look really slick, but there's not much that's true in here. And I was convinced after I watched it that he still doesn't understand the case. And you can see in this, he'll talk about his sources, and they're like the Amanda Knox documentary. They're basically never the transcripts, the evidence, the files. All of that is too cumbersome to get through. And I understand some of it is in Italian, but a lot of it is translated and available, especially I'd be really curious to hear Devin talk about Amanda Knox's testimony, but you're not going to hear that. You're not going to hear him talk about any of the really interesting pieces of evidence in this case, anything that points to Amanda. So let's get into it.
But first, we begin now with Amanda Knox, and the American who was studying in Italy when her roommate was slashed to death.
You were called satanic, demonic, a sex-crazy killer. How did it get so distorted?
There's no evidence. There's no evidence of that.
That's the theory. Knox is into some freaky sexual things. Soy el fuego que arde tu piel. Soy la espada que guarda.
Not to be a spoil sport, but can anybody tell me what this music has anything to do? My understanding is this is Spanish. What does this have to do with Amanda Knox? I don't know. Okay.
It's clearly a hatchet job against Amanda, and it's absolutely false.
Well, if she's capable of all of this sex, she must also be capable of violence.
Crazy.
Very much playing into the Madonna whore dichotomy.
How come you are the only one who ended up in prison? Because you aren't some rich white girl like Amanda Knox? And it's like, because he's the one who fucking raped and murdered Meredith.
So you can see he's using all the same tropes. There was no evidence, even though she was convicted. Then her conviction was reaffirmed, and then she got her exonerating decision, right? For those in the back who are just tuning in, the decision that let Amanda go determined that both she and Raph were lying. Every court determined that they were tremendous liars, but Devin's only going to talk about Rudy's lies. Those are the only lies that matter, except when it's useful to Devin. So then you see right here, I don't know if you guys caught it, but it was a quote from Rudy saying she wasn't there, meaning Amanda wasn't there. He said that. Then in court, his defense team argued that, they were there. So I don't, I just think it's funny. He's cherry picking what he wants to use. And so he's not going to talk about any of the real evidence against Amanda or Raph. And in fact, present them as if these convicted killers that got their conviction overturned basically on a technicality, that Supreme Court just threw out all the evidence, which is not to be done. My understanding of what the Supreme Court does is they look at all the evidence and come to a decision, but they just decided to go rogue. And I'm sure that had nothing to do with the pressure from the United States or Amanda Knox $1 million PR team, or just the incredible amount of advocacy in the United States for her. You also heard Jim Clemente there, who has advocated for many convicted killers. Adnan Syed is someone he's advocated for their innocence over and over again. Syed's innocence. He used to be a lawyer. He had his legal license taken away. He tried to appeal, but he never got it back. So, just only the best people advocating for Amanda Knox. What you won't see in this documentary is Paul Cialino, who elicited the false confession from All Story Simon in order to get a very guilty Anthony Porter out of prison. He was a big advocate for Amanda Knox. In fact, all you saw was Paul Cialino in the beginning talking about Amanda Knox and her, quote, wrongful conviction, unquote. All right, let's get into it.
In the center of Italy, there exists an ancient city named Perugia. It's been around since before Jesus, and it still maintains its quaint charm, along with modern inconveniences like bad Wi-Fi and bad plumbing. But in recent times, it's become more of a college town.
Is that what happened? The bad plumbing? Is that what happened to Amanda Knox? When the pipes burst under the sink and she had to leave a giant pile of water, in no way tailoring the evidence for the reason she was found with a mop in her hands when doing some uncharacteristic cleaning when the postal police came by? Is that what he means by bad plumbing? I don't know.
A tourist destination. It tends to attract a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. But today I want to tell you about the story of a young woman named Meredith Kercher. In 2007, she went out there to study, take a year abroad. She came from London. She was 21 years old, a studious...
No, she came from Surrey, but okay.
This girl, well-liked, there to soak up life, try something new. She lived with two Italian girls older, 29 years old, Philomena and Laura.
I'm really happy that Devin Tracy's finally learned about Amanda Knox's two other roommates. When I talked to him about this case, he didn't even know she had two other roommates. I don't know. I was thinking like maybe it's. I really thought that the first thing Devin did on this was maybe a little bit more honest. When he just said, "Look, white women who are upper middle class don't do this kind of thing. You're an idiot if you disagree with me." That seemed a little bit more honest than this.
Beautiful cottage-like house, 2 stories, a bunch of guys living downstairs. Looked out onto a beautiful valley, but was close enough to the school to be very convenient. In late September of 2007, she got a new roommate. A young girl from Seattle, kind of a tomboy, soccer player, bit of a pothead, fun-loving girl named Amanda Knox.
So this is from the Amanda Knox documentary. So we're letting Amanda Knox define herself. But according to the people around her, I think one student who went to school described her as a man-eater, heavy into drugs and alcohol. But now she's a warrior. She describes herself as a warrior princess. And of course, everything that the convicted liar says about herself is absolutely 100% true, and we should take it as fact.
I remember thinking, okay, I'm different. I'm my own person, but I'm going to find my place.
Being two native English speakers, the two gravitated together and formed a friendship. They lived right next to each other in adjacent rooms, and they shared a bathroom. Meredith and Amanda.
Yeah, they tried to form a friendship because they were two English speakers, but quickly it turned into a rivalry. For one, there were men living downstairs, one of them Giacomo, and Amanda said to Meredith, I like Giacomo, but you can have him. And that doesn't go over well with women, that kind of stuff. Also, she didn't flush the toilet. She didn't do her chores. All this was hugely annoying to Meredith. She played the same note on the guitar over and over again. She was basically like the roommate from hell. They were not friends. And Meredith was telling her friends that she had real issues with Amanda. And right before this murder happened, Meredith was blowing her off. So you can see, I put them up in my Facebook group. You can see the pictures from Meredith on Halloween. She's with her British friends, but Amanda is nowhere in sight.
Amanda and Philomena and Laura were living a charmed life. They were all socially active. Men liked essentially all of them. Eventually, they all had boyfriends. The house itself.
So, yeah, Amanda was known as a man-eater, and Meredith, men really liked her. She was really very, very smart and studious, and she was taking a extremely heavy course load. And Amanda was taking one language class. So already you can see someone with a lot of free time on their hands and someone with a lot of work to do already is setting up an issue between those two.
It wasn't that glamorous, but it had a great view and a great location. And they didn't care. I mean, you're 21 years old, you're having the time of your life. You're invincible, and you're happy because things are going well, your future's looking bright, and everything's okay in the world. Until it's not. Because the day after Halloween...
Except for the people that said Amanda was a loose cannon. She had thrown a party before this. She had also had a history of staging break-ins as a prank with her girlfriends, and that will come into play later. And she was doing a lot of heavy use of substances. Does that make her a murderer? No, but that gives you a little bit of the backstory. So when the defense argued, like Raph's defense argued that she's Amelie from Seattle, I would say no, she's not. If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show.
In 2006, Kercher was raped and stabbed to death in the neck with a gaping wound that took her 10 minutes to bleed out.
Yeah, in the neck with two different knives. Two different knives were used. So what did Rudy just like switch up? And there's also, I wonder if you can see this on here. This is obviously these isolated bruises on her face. Those were in the shape of female-sized fingerprints. We also have Amanda's DNA mixed with Meredith's DNA that lights up under luminol. Luminol is a substance that detects blood, and that was found in the bathroom, Philomena's room, the room of the stage break-in, where we would expect to find, if Rudy did this alone, tons of his DNA. but somehow he's Spider-Man able to climb the wall. And you saw in that early that introduction that Devin did to this, you can see that he's using a thing that Raph and Amanda's defense team put together, which they had a professional climber climb the windows, use the bars to hoist himself up into the window without ever acknowledging that there would be glass. The shutters were shut, and there was no top bars on the windows. Those were added. And Rudy Gude was not a professional climber. So show me someone who can do that with also, it was also muddy and rainy. There was no mud on the side of the walls. There was no impression in the grass. So he's supposed to just throw this rock through shutters and climb through it without cutting himself and leaving no trace of himself. And for all the people shouting, I can already hear the people in the audience shouting, well, Amanda lived there. Of course, her DNA is going to be mixed with Meredith Kercher's DNA. No, this was DNA that lit up under luminol, meaning it's blood, meaning Meredith and Amanda were bleeding at the same time. There's a huge gob of Amanda's blood on the tap. So many people think that, and including also, you also have the scratch under her neck, under Amanda's neck. Now, supporters will say it's a hickey. We can look at it a little later, or you can go back to my episode on it. But it sure does look like a scratch. Maybe Meredith kicked her in the middle of a struggle. Did she get an elbow? I don't know. But something happened to her. She was bleeding. Did her nose get hit? Was she bleeding from her nose or her mouth? But there's also Raph's footprint in Meredith's blood. See, Rudy's footprints go right out the door. And they don't turn around to lock the door. You have to remember that Meredith was found behind a locked door. His go straight out. Who locked the door? Who took her cell phones? Who dumped them in about a little over half a mile away into some people's garden?
She screamed, she resisted, she fought, she died. The question.
So he's right. She was essayed, but there's no proof that this was, I don't know how to say this delicately. It was some forcible, unwanted, assault. But there's no evidence. I've heard Devin say before, talking about semen left on the scene. That has been debunked a billion times, but I'm sure he's going to keep repeating it anyway, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what's true or not, and that gives you a huge advantage to say whatever you want. If you can just keep saying unfact-checked, untrue things, you have infinite possibilities of things places you can go and things you can talk about. Whereas when you're restricted to just the evidence, you're stuck with the same talking points, right? Here you can have infinite talking points. You can just, if it can come from your imagination. And that's really what this is.
And I pose to you, and I assume you don't know all the details of this case, but you're about to. The question is, who did it? Meredith Kercher is someone we don't know. We didn't know her. We don't know her. We're not gonna know her because she's dead. Obviously, she was a bright, lovely young woman who did.
But not as great as my love, Amanda Knox, that I'm going to white knight for this killer. So let's just get Meredith Kercher out of the way, guys.
Did not deserve this, got completely screwed, and it actually is the impetus to why it's important to ascertain who killed her, to punish that. I was about to say man. Ooh, almost spoiled there. Don't want.
Yeah, but Supreme Court doesn't accept that one person did it alone. Courts established that this was a crime of multiple people. Why? 2 knives were used. The break-in room was staged. And the knife was found at Raph's. What would Rudy do returning the knife to Raph's? And that, knife was found with Amanda Knox's DNA on the handle and Meredith Kercher's DNA on the tip. But, Amanda Knox supporters, all the evidence that convicted Raph and Amanda is wrong, corrupted, but all the evidence DNA-wise that convicted Rudy Goudet is right on the money. So why have so much confidence in Rudy Goudet's conviction? And there's a lot. I mean, if you're going to talk about the broad class being corrupted, which they love to do, corrupted. I mean, so crazy. It's such a crazy, crazy story and complicated. That's the other disadvantage of having to talk about the actual evidence in this case, is it's very complicated. But they did controls. So when they got convicted, the appeals court that looked at this said, well, maybe it could have been corrupted because maybe they didn't do controls. But they did do controls to make sure it wasn't corrupted, but they just never asked for those reports. But the Supreme Court just threw out all that evidence, but Rudy Goudet's conviction stood, oddly.
Spoil. Punish the person or persons, which will be suggested by some, who killed her.
It's not suggested by some. It's established as a fact by the Supreme Court that let Amanda go and Raph go. After coming to the conclusion that they lied nonstop. So it's just really interesting that Raffaele Sollecito, that he was really looking to get out of this conviction. And we'll talk about that a little bit later.
She must also be capable of violence.
Did I go back to the
very much playing into the Madonna.
Okay, here we are.
I remember thinking, okay, I'm different.
Oh, we're already back.
People that need this to be explained. Meredith Kercher is someone we don't know. We didn't know her. We don't know her. We're not gonna know her because she's dead. Obviously, she was a bright, lovely young woman who did not deserve this, got completely screwed, and it actually is the impetus to why it's important to ascertain who killed her, to punish that. I was about to say man. Ooh, almost spoiled there. Don't want to spoil. Punish the person or persons, which will be suggested by some, who killed her.
This does not look like grief. It does not read as grief.
I think everyone's reaction to something horrible is different.
And it's like, when you look back on it now, it's like, why is this so dumb? Like, why is this so obvious? If you
into deviant sex? Insensitive question, but hey, we got to get to what it is. This fuels the doubt. Did you have any type of experimental activities there you're embarrassed to talk about?
So this is just more on she gave off a vibe, a weird vibe. No, it's that, is that Amanda, she had her story with Raph. The minute that Raph pulled his alibi from her memory becomes really hazy, and she starts accusing her boss, saying she's afraid of him, and that she met her boss on the basketball court. She let him in, and he did this, and she let him sit in prison for 2 weeks before he got out on his own alibi, never saying a peep. I mean, I think we just got to look at this for a second. So no, it's, the cartwheels, the handstands, the buying lingerie within 24 hours of your friend's quote unquote murder. Yeah, I would call that off the charts of normal behavior. You can be stoic on one side. It's a spectrum of normal behavior. And she's in the way off. But that's not why we think she's guilty. That's just like that's just part of the story. A tiny little touch. I mean, it's really the forensics that are so bad and her own lying. I mean, let me see if I can find this. Okay, yeah, here we go. Whoop. Is that too big? All right, hold on. Let me see if I know I have okay, here we go. This is going to be a little easier to read. So she says, I wish to state, this is what she told the prosecutor, I wish to relate spontaneously what happened because these events have deeply bothered me. And I'm really afraid of Patrick, the African boy. You know who else was African? Rudy Gude from the Ivory Coast. Interesting. So if anybody had seen Rudy Gude leaving her house, Patrick was a good stand-in. Who owns the pub Le Chic, where she worked, where she'd been demoted to flyers? Okay, Le Chic, located in Via Lesse, where I worked periodically. I met him in the evening of November 1st, 2007, after sending him a reply message saying, I will see you. We met soon after, about 2100 hours at the basketball court. We went to my apartment. What I can say is that, he went into Meredith's room. And she says in this that I am afraid of him. I do not remember if Meredith was screaming as I heard some thuds and I'm sad. She puts herself at the murder scene. Yeah, that's why. Not like this is a vibe. That's what she tells Joe Rogan, that this was a vibe. This was not a vibe. They had major lying alibi problems.
Yeah, that doesn't age well, does it?
No. Did you kill Meredith Kercher?
No.
Were you there that night?
No.
Do you know anything you have not told police? Do you know anything?
No.
Well, this gets a little bit confusing, but we're going to break it down step by step. And
can you imagine white knighting for this murderer? Oh my God. Oh, talk about jump the shark.
we're going to keep it simple. First, I have to introduce you to a couple men that are deeply involved in this case. This is Rafael Solicito. This is Rafael. This is Raffaele. This is Raffaele Solecito. He is an Italian guy. He's a software engineer, 23 years old, just graduating, who met Amanda Knox at a classical music concert. He approached her, they had locked eyes, he decided to make a move. She was giving him the look. The guy comes across and was described as an Italian Harry Potter, partly because of this famous moment where he was wearing a scarf looking like Hufflepuff, or what is it? Gryffindor, of course. And he's got the glasses on. It's just all very Harry Potter-esque. So he meets Amanda on October 25th. They hit it off, and they begin dating, as in kissing, as in...
Yeah, two psychopaths meet, and it's on very quickly between the two. Oh, darn it, I did it again. I'm really sorry, guys. Okay, I think we're right near the part.
Is there you're embarrassed to talk about?
Yeah, that doesn't age well, does it?
No. Did you kill Meredith Kercher?
No.
Oh, I think
were you there that night?
Forward.
Is an Italian guy. He's a software engineer, 23 years old, just graduating, who met Amanda Knox at a classical music concert. He approached her, they had locked eyes, he decided to make a move. She was giving him the look. The guy comes across and was described as an Italian Harry Potter, partly because of this famous moment where he was wearing a scarf looking like Hufflepuff, or what is it? Gryffindor, of course. And he's got the glasses on. It's just all very Harry Potter-esque. So he meets Amanda on October 25th. They hit it off, and they begin dating, as in kissing, as in hooking up, as in spending every day and night together, until Meredith was killed, and then everything got turned on its head.
Amanda and Meredith go to a classical music concert together, where Amanda meets Italian student Raffaele.
Just interesting to note that Raf was like really amazed by Amanda's inability to have any kind of emotional response to the music. He wrote something like, all she could, I don't know if he said it or wrote it, but he was like, all she could get from the music was whether it was fast or slow. Kind of interesting. Yeah, and he was a virgin when they met. So Amanda had a boyfriend at home, DJ, who she was cheating on, and Meredith didn't approve of that. That was another tension between them. And Amanda, like most women, doesn't like being disapproved of.
Sollecito. He looks like her favorite, Harry Potter, and the two begin a whirlwind romance. Described by friends as intelligent and sensitive, the handsome Raffaele has come to Perugia to study information technology. A week later, October the 31st, it is Halloween, and in Perugia, like every other university town, it's party time. It is one of Meredith's favorite nights out, and she is dressed as a vampire. These will turn out to be among the last photographs of her alive. Happy, full of life, and completely at home with her new friends. What happens on the night of November the 1st, 2007, has been the subject of 3 trials, 3 appeals, and 3 Supreme Court rulings. The story has more twists and turns than the medieval streets of Perugia itself. The story starts at 9 o'clock in the morning on the 2nd of November, when a local woman finds 2 mobile phones in her garden. She takes them to the postal police, which handles crimes involving communication devices. They quickly discover one of the phones is registered to Via della Pergola 7.
So Meredith had borrowed Philomena's phone because to make local calls, and she had her English phone, and both those get returned back. But originally they were looking for Philomena, and interestingly, when the postal police asked Amanda and Raph if they'd called the police, they said yes, but they hadn't yet. And there's Amanda doing some uncharacteristic cleaning there with a mop. Really odd. And then they asked for Philomena's phone number for her phone, and she gave them Meredith's cell phone. So many people think she was trying to delay the discovery of Meredith's body. Another reason is because when finally they did call the police, when they were basically, her mom told her like 100 times to call the police, and she kept calling her friends. Finally, when they did call the police were about to bust down the door. They said, "Is this normal?" And Amanda said, "Oh yeah, it's normal. Meredith locks her door all the time." But Philomena and Laura were like, "No, knock down that door right away." They were in a panic. Philomena, when she heard the door was open and there was blood, she was in a panic. And Amanda just like went there, took a shower, blow dried her hair, looked at the poo in the toilet from Rudy Goudet, and didn't flush it. Because somehow she's like a psychic and has a premonition that it's going to be hugely important to get the DNA from that turd. Unreal. So yeah, so many people think Amanda was trying to delay the discovery of Meredith's body.
A small cottage just 500 meters away. When police arrive here, they see 2 students in the driveway. Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito. They tell the police the front door is open and one room has been ransacked. Police go into the house.
Yeah, one room is ransacked, and when Raph called the police, he said, "Oh, nothing's missing. Nothing's missing from this room." How did he know that? Philomena and Laura, he knew all the jewelry they had, all the money they had. Somehow, he was right. Nothing was missing besides Meredith's rent money.
One bedroom's a mess. Clothes are all over the floor, and a large rock is lying near the window. Shortly after the postal police arrive, around 12:51, Raffaele Sollecito calls the elite police force, the Carabinieri.
Now there's another guy I want to introduce you to, and that's this guy. What do we know about him? His name? Rudy Gudet. Rudy Gudet. He comes from the Ivory Coast of Africa, but his family immigrated to Italy, then his father took off. He hung around, had an adopted family, but eventually they kicked him out. So he was a little bit of a wanderer. They call him a drifter. He would play basketball.
Yeah, he's a drifter because he's lived pretty much in Perugia his entire life. He lived in Milan for a little bit and Perugia. So by that definition, we're all drifters. If you've lived in more than one place in your life, you're a drifter. Congratulations, guys. You're a drifter.
He knew some of the guys downstairs that lived underneath Meredith and Amanda. He was on the outside. They didn't know him per se. Amanda didn't know his name, but she had seen him around. They had had a couple exchanges, brief.
Yeah, she'd seen him around. Let's look at Amanda's own words. This is what she told the prosecutor. Did you know Rudy Gudet? Vaguely. Where did you meet him? I met him at my work and in the town center and also with my neighbors downstairs. I've seen him at the basketball court and I met him at a party. But she doesn't know his name. And yeah, he did. He was friends with Marco, one of the young men downstairs. And they played basketball together. So I would say that's more than just an acquaintance. He was known to the men downstairs, which is kind of odd that why would Rudy Gudet break in when he doesn't know if anybody's home or not? So I'm not sure when Devin is saying he broke in. Did he break in and lie in wait for Meredith? Or did he break in, throw a rock through Philomena's window, and Meredith was just not supposed to hear it, climb up like Spider-Man with 2 knives in his pockets and do the deed himself and somehow leave Amanda Knox's footprints in blood, Raph's footprints in blood, and a whole lot of cleaned up. And why would he clean the scene? It seems like the only people who have a incentive to clean the scene were Raph and Amanda.
Just saying hello. She worked at a local bar called La Chic. Isn't that a song? Aw, freak out to them. Isn't that?
Aw, freak out. You freak, so chic, freak out. All that pressure got you down.
Now, you might ask yourself, how does he fit in? Does he?
I think the band is Chic and the song is Le Freak. Devin.
Does he know Meredith? Does he know Raffaele? Does he know Amanda? Who is this guy? Oh, we're going to talk about him. You're going to know Rudy Gudet. You're going to know everything about him. Because these 3 people were all convicted of the murder of Meredith Kercher. All of them. Does that answer all your questions? Or does it raise a few new ones? How in the hell did that happen? Say what? These 3 people killed her? Okay, interesting. Interesting. What happened? Okay, so we know that Meredith Kercher is dead. Vicious. We have video of the crime scene. There's blood everywhere. She was spitting up blood. Her esophagus had been cut. There's blood on the walls. There's bloody footprints everywhere.
Yeah, by 2 different knives, Devin. Yeah.
She's half naked. Her bra has been ripped off. Her pants are off. It's a vicious scene.
When the door is broken down, they discover a beige duvet on the floor. Beneath it, the battered and bloody body of Meredith Kercher. Prosecutor Giuliano Mignini arrives just after 2 p.m. He finds Meredith is partially naked, her bra's been cut off, and her t-shirt rolled up above her breasts. It looks like a sexual assault.
And so the first part of the saga of this story is going to be about giving you the facts. What happened? Now, I'm going to be using some source footage from the crime scene, the police videotapes. We're going to be looking at expert opinions about this, news coverage.
Expert opinions. There's Adnan Syed's advocate. Oh, Jim Clemente, Mr. ex-FBI, is going to say a bunch of untrue things that were never argued in court. And Steve Moore, who ran security for a college after he got X'd out of the FBI for whatever reason. And Steve Moore's wife and Steve Moore have also joined the Jody Jones's killer, Luke Mitchell's campaign now. Oh, he's got all the innocence fraud advocates out. They're all the experts. I mean, Devin's got to know. I mean, that this is how a good innocence fraud campaign is done. You get the experts. You get the experts to look at it and say a bunch of totally untrue things. Actually, I've actually been through this video, some of it, fact checking it, and it's. You can go back to some of my older videos on Amanda Knox, some of my earlier live streams to check that out. But I think this is a good time to just take a little break. If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show.
Interviews, then and now. Netflix put out a documentary. I'm going to use clips from that and a couple other documentaries because I want you.
So nowhere in there are the court transcripts or the actual evidence. But he's going to use the Amanda Knox documentary, that's for sure.
To understand the ins and outs of this case, the facts about what occurred, then we're going to go into the allegations as to why on earth anyone would have thought Amanda Knox killed Meredith Kercher.
You mean the things that convicted them twice? And only did they get out after the court determining that Amanda Knox was there at the scene, that this was a crime of multiple people? No court, I mean, you can call them allegations, but no court accepts what you're saying that looked at this. I mean, it's wild that they're massive liars and that the break-in room was staged and Amanda Knox was there at the scene of the murder, washed Meredith Kercher's blood off her hands and her feet, hence all the footprints in Meredith's blood in the hallway. But you also have the mixed blood of Meredith and Amanda in multiple parts of the cottage. Yeah, that's why people thought. And also, Amanda Knox lied her head off as soon as Raph took her alibi away. So as much as we'll never know what happened at the time of the murder, we can have a theory with these group crimes. The evidence tells a story. And then there's a female size fingerprints on Meredith Kercher in the form of bruises on Meredith Kercher's body. So yeah, we're all crazy. All of us crazy people who think Amanda Knox and Raph took part in this. They hated each other's guts.
Let alone Raffaele Solicito. Raffaele Solicito. Fuck. I'm keeping that in. Okay, all of these are hard words. Rudy Gaudet is a hard word to pronounce. Raffaele Solicito. Okay, hold on. How do the Italians say it?
Buonasera amici telespettatori, Raffaele Sollecito è
Sollecito. Okay. Sollecito. Okay. It's a work in progress. The dude is the nicest guy in the world. You will be charmed by this man. And you will be aghast at the proposition that that dude...
Okay, let's talk about this charming guy. So Raph attacked a girl with scissors at his school, collected all sorts of disturbing pornography, but also kept a knife collection, and at one time had a hard drug problem. But I can get that he's charming. My dad always told me charm is the enemy of character. But I think we'll finish this up, and then we'll circle back to Raph, some of his more current shenanigans in this case. And he comes from a very Godfather like family. That's all I can say. Look up Rocco Sollecito. Google that.
Let alone Amanda Knox, but Raffaele Sollecito. Getting better. The idea, the notion that this dude could or would kill Meredith Kercher or anybody is patently absurd. Now, I don't know if you have gaydar.
Okay, it's patently absurd. But an interesting part is Raph himself didn't think it was so absurd, because when he was in prison and he heard that the knife had some, what do you call it? A bad fact for his case, which is Amanda's DNA on the handle and Meredith's on the tip. He wrote in his prison diary, "Oh, I remember when Meredith was over at my house," because the knife was found in his home, cooking. "I remember when Meredith was over cooking and I pricked her with a knife. And I said, 'I'm so sorry.' And she said, 'It's not a problem.'" So why? He didn't think it was so ridiculous that he could be involved in this. He thought that maybe Amanda had framed him for this. That's what he said. So why is he tailoring the evidence? But we'll get back to Raph in a second, the nicest guy in the world that we'll be so charmed by.
This isn't about gayness, but do you have any intuition? Do you have any radar at all? Do you have murder radar? Murdar. I'm asking you to tap into your murdar.
Okay, so isn't murdar or intuition? So you're saying that some of us can detect a murderer. Is that from, I mean, how many murderers do you know, Devin? So we're just supposed to intuit via the screen, via these PR interviews, whether they did it or not? That's how it goes? Forget the evidence, forget what the courts say. Just use your common sense with the totally wrong information I'm giving you. The lies by massive omission that I'm giving you on this case. Just sort of like come to your own common sense. You know, use your own common sense using totally incorrect information.
And you tell me if you think Raffaele Sollecito is capable of murder. Let me introduce you to this man. Go.
I went to a classical music concert.
If you'd like to watch the rest of this video, it's over at censored.
All right, so let's get into Raph for a second. So Raph, there's a really interesting part of this trial, right in between being convicted, where a mobster named Avilo came forward. Let me see if I can share my screen. Hold on one sec. Let's see. Well, that is not, that's not what I'm looking for. Hold on one second. Actually, I have it over here. Okay, here we go. So this mafia snitch came forward and basically said that his brother did this crime. And Amanda Knox fans were like celebrating in America and saying that this is great. We knew it. We knew she was innocent. But what came out is that Avilo, who was in the same prison as Sollecito, told his prison buddies that he was offered, depending on between 58,000 or 158,000 euros. I think it was euros, to lie in this case. So if he's so innocent, why would he do that? I mean, obviously, you know, a person deep into the Innocence Project would say, well, of course, because they had no faith in the Italian justice system that let them go after throwing out all the DNA evidence. Okay, hold on. But he also was looking, hold on one second. To get married to an American so they couldn't extradite him. And this was a supporter, Kelsey Kay, who gave a bunch of interviews and basically said that immediately upon contacting him, he wanted to marry me. I mean, should we read some of this? I don't know how interested you guys are, but Amanda Knox wasn't the only woman that Raffaele Sollecito proposed to in the hopes that he could secure a green card and save himself from potentially going back to an Italian jail for Meredith Kercher's murder. Radar Online can exclusively reveal that Sollecito tried to convince an American woman named Kelsey Kay from Idaho to sign a contract that would have bound her in a marriage for citizenship arrangement. He also tried to arrange that with his lawyers and Amanda. So that's a little odd for a guy who would never do a murder. But like I said, I mean, the whole thing is basically one big collage, one big troll. Like, haha, I'm not going to really talk about any of the real evidence. I'm just going to basically make it look ridiculous by omission. So that's what I think I have to say about it for today, unless anybody has any questions for me. I think I'm going to leave it there. Devin Tracy fans are going to be disappointed, but I have taken off his interviews off my channel. This is a channel about innocence fraud, and I really can't, I can't really promote someone who's making their own innocence fraud material. So it is off my channel. And I think that's all I have to say about it for today. It's quite long and quite ridiculous. And that's about all I have to say. All right. I'll see you guys back here next time. All right. Have a good one, everybody.